because we feel something is missing. So people are looking for each other. They're looking for that other polarity that they will make them feel more complete. But that's externally. Internally, it means that our void is still looking for the complementary aspect of us. People talk about soulmates. Oh, I found my soulmate. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Welcome back to the second series and 7th episode of Towards a Solar Civilization. I am Naika, your host. In today's episode, we will be exploring a way through the age-old dilemma of the battle of the sexes to experience harmony and balance. Carmen, our guide and speaker, will touch upon many interesting topics, including that there is a divine plan or blueprint that governs all creation, and we are a part of it. God and his desire to manifest himself and the world of unity. The polarities that can be found everywhere, for example, as positive and negative, electricity and magnetism, night and day, venous and arterial circulation, acid and base, men and women. The specific attributes and properties of each polarity in their manifestation, the law of attraction and the law of balance and how it relates to the polarities, the third factor to bringing about balance, the importance of having a high ideal, how reincarnation offers us the opportunity to develop the characteristics, qualities, and virtues associated with each gender so we progress towards our perfection, the difference between soulmates and twin flames, and how to polarize ourselves in all our relationships as to avoid conflict and create more harmony. Over to you, Carmen.
If you don't know yet, my name is Carmen. I'm from Canada. I'm part of the Fraternal Forum organizing team to spread the light in the USA. Wonderful mission. I'm also an author with the Aquarian team, a group of brothers and sisters who write based on the teaching of Master Omraam Mikhail Ivanov. So this talk today falls right on the equinox of fall, and the sun is in Libra. When we chose this title, we did not know consciously that it was going to be delivered at this time of the year when Libra is represented by a pair of scales, like you see there. It's the only astrological sign that is not represented by a human being, means a human being or an animal. And there might be a reason for it. It's the one that represents how important the cosmic balance is in the universe. So what I'm saying today is based on the books of the Master. I use cosmic balance. I use cosmic creation union of the masculine and feminine, and some from love and sexuality. The same talk as today will be delivered on the 6th of October in Bethesda at the Pathways Natural Living exhibit. And those who come to listen to this talk will have a free book of the Aquarian team, which is the latest book. And we have Carla here, who's one of the authors. So if you want to have this free book, come on October 6th. Otherwise, it's $19.95. Good incentive, eh? So when we talk about cosmic balance, we have to consider that as human beings, we are born either as a man or a woman. We don't have options, unless in rare exceptions a being is hermaphrodite, but that's very rare. What is even rarer is a being who's androgynous. But the situation of being androgynous refers to a spiritual realization. For us, at our level, as a man or a woman, if we want to understand how to keep a balance, might be wise to go and see what is the divine plan. What did the architect on high plan so that it came down and made us a man or a woman? So going back to the source of thing, into the blueprint. So, we know that God is one. But the one, in his bliss and unity, decided to show his creation. He's the architect. So, in order to show his creation, he decided to come out of himself. So, he was like a dot in the totality of himself. But in order to show his creation, he came out of that dot and he became a line, like a line. The dot stretched, but that line has two poles, positive and negative. Out of these two poles, as you come down from spirit to matter, it became masculine and feminine, man and woman. If we go back higher, well, not higher, but in the divine plan where we are, imagine that God, this little dot, is everywhere present. And as he polarized himself, became that, all the little positive, which are emitting, transmitting, pulsing forward, are looking for the complement. They're looking for the other pole. And the negative pole, which is the attractive pole, the one that holds and retains, is looking for little positives. And this is how the whole universe was created, one looking for the other. Isn't that interesting? It formed the whole universe. So God, as one, polarized himself. But he needed, in order to contain all this, some kind of boundaries that we call matter. So we have the spirit, the dot, and matter was like the substance that would contain the elements that are necessary for this polarity to manifest. So in the Kabbalah, it is known that God has a wife. And she is the Shekinah. She is the substance, the primordial substance for which anything will become matter within that infinity. Okay? When we come back lower at our level, we understand that each of our gender is represented by specific characteristics. A man tends to be heroic, the knighthood, the courage, the strength. And the woman tends to be gentle, affectionate, nurturing, and she draws to herself. Whereas the man propels forward, thrusts forward. It follows that same blueprint that we saw before. Another relation we can establish between the positive and the negative is electricity and magnetism, where both are needed in order to get things to function. When you install them to a device, the device will start working. So everything in creation takes its original manifestation in the world of spirit, polarizing itself. And it is in that two poles that a reciprocity is established, where they connect with each other and keep a balance. Because, and we know that through a magnet, that when you put two positive together, they repel each other. And same with two negative together, you don't get the proper circulation. And that shows us that in the spiritual world, this reciprocity between the two poles is what keeps circulation and evolution, manifestation. So that's where the cosmic balance comes from. It comes from the spiritual world in this act of balancing the two poles. How does it translate in our life? Well, when two people are too emissive, you will see sparks very soon, because they both try to speak at the same time. They both want to be right. Eventually, it creates separation, division, might even go to destruction. And when you have two people that are on the receptivity side, or I don't want to use the word negative in the sense of being bad, but in the sense of being both receptive, there's no circulation. They're both boring. They don't have nothing to exchange. There is not this reciprocity between the two. So when we want to keep a balance in our personal life, we have to come back within and ask, am I being emissive right now, or am I being receptive? Is it my time to be emissive, or is it my time to be receptive? In theory, when one is delivering a message, you would call that being emissive. The other one should just hear and listen. And when the person pauses, the one that is delivering a message pauses, you feel it's your time now to come in and say what you have to say. That establishes this reciprocity. It doesn't mean that one is right over the other. It means you know how to polarize yourself in order to keep a balance. And this works really well in partners, with children, with employees, employers, is know how to polarize yourself properly so that there's always a flow between the two. Maybe the other way we can also look at this wonderful polarity of positive, negative is that on the linear side, we tend to think that one is better than two, that one is higher than two. But in the spiritual world, they have a different type of mathematics. The number two is not less than the number one. It's equal in value and worth because it has its role to play. Without the feminine aspect of things, you end up in sterility, in non-manifestation, in non-activity. And that's what happens with religion sometimes, especially in Christianity, where they decided to do away from the feminine principle. Well, eventually it's sterility and disappearance. It can't be on its own. It requires that balancing of the two, recognizing that the feminine principle is not a woman, a person on the outside. It is a principle that we carry within. Now, yes, we are born as a man and as a woman, but maybe our psychological characteristic carries some of both. How many of you believe in reincarnation? Okay, maybe I should ask, how many of you don't believe in reincarnation? Ah, wonderful. We're all on the same page. So, when we are evolved enough, we can...
I am Catholic, and I'm not supposed to believe in it.
You're not supposed to. Yes. Fortunately for you, it's for your own benefit. I was born Catholic as well, so I fully understand where you come from. When we are advanced enough in our soul work, we choose which gender we're going to incarnate with or incarnate in, because we know which qualities and virtues we need to develop in order to pursue our evolution. The goal of all this is come back into our unity, into our godhood. But we cannot get to our godhood without taking into consideration our polarity, because that's how we came through. We came through polarities. So, if we're not evolved enough to choose which gender we need to pursue our evolution, the 24 elders in the invisible world will say, you need to be a man or a woman, no choice. Go down and develop the attributes that will allow you to grow forward in evolution. So, psychologically, yes, we carry some of each of those properties that belong to men and women. If we take another example in mathematics, and we represent God as being the number one. We are incarnated in matter. We're like that circle that we saw before. We represent maybe what we call now the zero. Well, if you put God in the first place in your life, you just multiplied by 10 your potential. That's nice. But if you put yourself first and you put God second, you just divided your potential by 10. And that's what happens when we materialize ourselves so much, when we descend into matter and we forget about the soul and the spirit. We put ourselves first. This is a beautiful illustration from Master Omra Mikhaila Ivanov, where you see the higher self here. That's our higher reason, soul, and spirit. That's the higher self of us. Most of us operate from here when we're not awakened through our intellect, our heart, and our will. And that composes the role that we play as a human being. It's like at the theater. It's not our true self, but we sure take ourselves seriously. But our true self is here. So as we learn more about our own structure, and we learn that in order to reach back to our origin, we have to experience that polarity to go back to the Godhead. So the mental, the intellect here should be turned towards the higher self in order to be inspired. And the heart here should listen to what the wisdom, the intellect says. When we have these three attributes and don't keep a balance between them, when one favors the other, it's possible that there is such enough balance that it will take us into trouble. Let's take an example. Let's say the mind comes up with a sublime idea and the heart says, go for it, go for it. And the willpower doesn't have much of a say. Cannot calculate because two have taken sides together. The third element should always be able to intercept and balance the two others, because whether it's the intellect and the heart or whether it's the intellect and the willpower, when one is left out completely of the equation, you can be sure there will be some results that will not be very harmonious. That's within our lower self here. When we consider that spirit is the one thrusting forward, what is in our human level the element that will receive that inspiration from spirit? Do any one of you follow me? Our soul. Our soul becomes the receptacle. It becomes feminine so that the spirit can come and deposit some inspiration, some images that will bring us forward into manifesting something that will be beautiful. This is how our great artists, they connected with heaven and they became a receptacle for great masterpieces. Is because they polarize themselves by being open in their soul so spirit could come in. That's how it was, remember, when we were back into the blueprint, where we said spirit wanted to come or God wanted to come out of himself and pushed forward, there had to be something to receive it. And that was the Shekinah, the Divine Mother, the substance that was there. And it's because of that manifestations could happen. We all know that women are the one that formed the child in their womb. They don't have to say, I want 1 pound of calcium, I want 3 kilos of iron. Nature does it for them. Why? Because they know how to attract the magnetic particles to form within the womb. It's so powerful. How could any religion deny that feminine, powerful aspect that allows formation to take place? Now, I would like to share a daily meditation that is so pertinent to our subject today. Christians recite, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they never seem surprised that there's no mention of a feminine principle in this Trinity. Yet, we cannot help but wonder, when you hear Father and Son, words that evoke the notion of a family, is it not strange that a third member of this family should be the Holy Ghost? What kind of family has no mother? The Kabbalists are right when they teach that God has a wife, whom they call Shekinah. Christians must accept the existence of this cosmic principle, the feminine dimension of the creative principle. The being that we call God and that Christianity sees as a masculine force is in reality both masculine and feminine. Before there can be creation or manifestation, there must be polarization. That is, the presence of a masculine principle and a feminine principle. In order to manifest, God has to be both masculine and feminine. That is what was also taught in the Orphic initiations. God is both male and female. This daily meditation is actually taken from the book Towards a Solar Civilization, a little pocket book of the Izvor collection. Now, if we go a little higher and we say, what if we received a divine seed from a very evolved being who was so disinterested that the only thing he ever wished was the golden age on earth? But in order to deposit that seed into our psyche, we had to be receptive to receive that seed and offer not just us as women, but men as their feminine principle, which they hold within in potential, in order to make this seed become a reality. Why don't we try that? Why don't we just sit for a minute and imagine that a great being like the Master, whose whole life was dedicated to realizing the golden age on earth, brought that seed. That was his mission. Bring that seed and make it come true. But he needed people to make it come true. So let's take a minute and offer our energy for the realization of the golden age on earth. Thank you. May this energy be used by heaven for that realization. We heard the Master say in one of the lectures, what a woman wants, God wants, because she holds the keys to manifestation, that substance that will make things come true. We'll go on with mathematics. You know that number 2 is is a very, very special number, because it also carries within it division. The 2 is like the split of something. Something that can be used for the good and something that can be used for the not so good. And that brings us to good and evil. It's not an easy subject to approach when we don't have the knowledge of initiatic science. In initiatic science, it is said that above human beings, when you get to angels and archangels, divinities, principalities, seraphim, cherubims, there is no more evil. It doesn't even penetrate. It has no reason to be there. It only exists at the level lower than angels. And it's at our consciousness level that we need to resolve this. Because good and evil is that same polarization of positive and negative, but not negative in being bad in this case, in being the attribute of the same thing misunderstood. And that's why it became what we call evil. If we know how, in initiatic science, they say, use it for the good. Find why it's there. And then it has no more power over you. Which means evil plays the role of pricking so that you are bothered, you are disturbed, you are challenged to go beyond the difficulty that faces you. And there you start to make efforts to get out of that situation, to understand, to search, to pray. And eventually it frees you from that which bothered you through your own effort. That number 2 is like the division. And you know, in the tarot card, the Papess, she used to be called the Papess, now she's called the High Priestess, she has an open book on her lap. And the open book is the symbol of the 2, meaning she has the power to drive people towards heaven or to drive them into temptations and the negative part of things. But it's also representing the 2 principal, masculine and feminine. In the original tarot card, she held 2 keys, one gold with a triangle and one silver with the cross. And that meant to reveal that she knew that the 2 principles were necessary to create anything and manifest anything. So those keys of knowing the masculine and feminine principle throughout creation, throughout our psyche, throughout the invisible realms, allow us to have the power to change ourselves, to grow towards perfection. In the work of Plato called Symposium, it relates that human beings were a spheric ball with 4 legs, 4 arms, 2 faces, both genital organs. They realized how powerful they were, and they started taking on the gods. And Zeus said, whoa, let's stop this. Let's split them in half. And that's how they've been looking for their other tender half ever since. Human beings. Because we feel something is missing. So people are looking for each other. They're looking for that other polarity that they will make them feel more complete. But that's externally. Internally, it means that our void is still looking for the complementary aspect of us. People talk about soulmates. Oh, I found my soulmate. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. 2 years later, the soulmate is a devil in person. Okay, they go to the next soulmate and then to the next soulmate. And yes, we have many soulmates. They're all partners. They help us evolve. They're all partners. It appears they complete us completely. But that completion is not on the outside. The completion is within our own work. How many of you have heard about twin flames or twin souls versus soulmate? You must have read the books of the Master. Because with the twin souls or twin flames, we each have one. We each have one. But we only meet that twin soul 12 times throughout our entire incarnations. And it's not in the physical body in the sense of she is that or he is that. It will be a being that comes through someone where you will be bowled over by something that you felt was just so perfect for you. Oops, it's gone. That was the visit of the twin soul. So 12 times throughout our entire incarnations, we have that to remind us that it exists. And the twin souls will never incarnate at the same time. They will take turn so that each develop what is necessary until they attain that fusion. In that fusion, the androgynous, there's no need to go any further. The other thing about the papas that I forgot to say, the book that she has in front of her also represents the living book of nature. And if you have the knowledge of those two principles, how they interact, you can read the entire book of nature, and all powers are given to you through this knowledge of the two principles and being able to decode the book of nature, which means in nature everywhere is written the information to help us evolve, to help us realize the two principles. We talked about electricity, magnetism, but even in our anatomy, we have like the mouth and the tongue. The tongue which represents the masculine principle and the two lips, the feminine principle. We have the key with the keyhole that opens the door to the treasure hidden behind. You have the two principles, the key and the keyhole. You find those principles everywhere because they come from the blueprint at the origin of things. So it's really in our favor to recognize where we're operating from, not just physically with our gender, but in our inner work of, am I being emissive when I'm at sunrise? At sunrise, we should be receptive because the sun, which represents the Christ, is wanting to fill our soul. So we have to make room. We have to be receptive in that moment, like cosmic spirit fertilizing the universal soul. And then forms and forms are generated. When we receive from spirit, through the sun or through our inner work, and we have space to contain the inspiration it sends us, we will come with ideas, we will come, and we don't know where they come from. Well, it's our work. It's our work that produces that by knowing when to be emissive and when to be receptive. It's a wonderful thing to know that it holds itself from the invisible down to all levels of manifestation, down to how we are built. Any questions?
Inside, can you please give an example of what is complementary in inside?
Yes, well, we have it right here.
Okay.
The complementarity between things is our intellect tends to be emissive and our heart tends to be receptive. So that's considered the masculine side and that's considered the feminine side. And when we keep a balance between the two, when we're not all intellect and we're not all feelings, then there's a reciprocity and that allows an oscillation to take place between the two. When there's no oscillation, static position. There's no life, there's no circulation. So what allows one and the other to move, this oscillation, is when we know how to use our intellect at the right time, when we know how to use our heart at the right time. Sometimes our willpower will be the dominating force, will be the masculine force. And it's fine for the willpower to act like this, as long as it's not at the expense and links up with the intellect or links up with the heart and leaves out the wisdom out. Because if it's just the heart and the willpower without taking consideration of the wisdom of the intellect, it might side off. And in the next slide, when there's an imbalance in that oscillation and we end up in a situation of war, the only thing to bring back a balance is to work with the light, create centers of light with prayers and meditation. These energies are maybe very subtle, but that's what start weighing and creating a balance with the other condition. At the moment on earth, there is so many imbalances because of the state of materialization that we have accomplished. Matter had to reveal spirit, but somehow we got entrenched in matter and forgot the spirit part of it. So we are so embedded into matter that it's compressing us and challenging us, because what we took for granted is disappearing under our feet. So in order to bring a balance into what humanity is experiencing at the moment is to create centers of light. The work that we do in the Brotherhood is so powerful in the subtle regions because we're working with spirit, we're working with the great invisible universal white brotherhood. It's a big allies, and they need material beings to offer their energy for them to change something on earth. So we are in the best of positions to work for these centers of light, to keep on singing together, praying together, because we're putting energy into that other part of the scale to bring a better balance. But it will never be static position. It's not meant to be. There needs that oscillation or reciprocity between things for life to circulate. And the disappearance, what I'm going to say now, you're going to find it in the book, but I find it extremely powerful. The disappearance of polarity means a lost generation. Think about that one. With what is going on with education at the moment, it's very powerful. So the work we do with the light is what can help clear the agenda that is heavy on the other scale of the balance. So, and the other thing too is to work spiritually, but not negate the material aspect of it. Too often spiritualists don't look at the shadow side of their being. They don't want to see it. They want to remain positive and holy. But going back within and seeing our shadows is one way to transform what we called evil before into something that is there to help us work. The master uses the comparison of the going into a well and two people pull at opposite direction in order to get the bucket of water to come up. Well, they're working for the same thing, but these opposites work together. It's the same with good and evil. They work together. What we need sometimes is an ally. Just like when people have difficulties, they go to a court of law or they go to arbitration. In our case, we can go to our higher self. We can go and say, I'm in a pickle right now. Can you come and help me? The higher self is always there within us. It's within our spark to help us and answer our questions. So we have allies, and the high ideal is also a very, very strong ally. The ideal of saying to have a heart as pure as crystal, a mind as luminous as the sun, a soul as vast as the universe, and a spirit as powerful as God and one with God. When you recite this prayer, I can tell you, your frequency is changing. You may be in a pickle at this level, but if you focus on these words and really expand through this high ideal, your frequency would change and you would not stay at that level of the trouble. Very powerful. Yes?
Yeah, I have a practical question and I wonder if you can answer it spiritually. What exactly does happen to two people when they fall in love at the beginning and everything is rosy? And let's say 30 years later, everything is
falls apart. Well, the first thing that got them together is love. I call love the glue of the universe because it really knows how to attract the right partner to get us to work on ourselves. So it has to be a pretext strong enough to bring two people together. So a lot of the time it's love that brings them together. Sometimes it's power, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's other circumstances. But in your story, love got them together. Don't worry. There's a reason. They've been connected in another lifetime and they know that they need to work together. It comes a time where maybe there's no solution because maybe both are emissive at the same time, both are receptive at the same time, and things never work out. Well, if they can separate in harmony so that they don't create karma for the next life, it's already a better solution. If the couple separates with animosity and anger, you can be sure they will find each other again. So it's like a joke between my husband and I. If you don't want to see me next lifetime, be nice to me. But some people separate because they've done their work together. They've accomplished their purpose. Maybe they were to bring children, and these children had a role to play in their own evolution, and they were the perfect parents for those children. So it's very hard to judge, and I'm not a master to answer that in the story of your soul. But by observation, I can see that sometimes it's the best solution is to separate because the work has been done, but make sure you do it in harmony, that both agree that for each other's survival's sake, it's better to leave each other and be kind to the children in between. So, any other question?
Yeah. Okay, there's an imbalance that's created in an individual, okay? And if the person don't realize an imbalance. So why they have to push the path to restore the balance instead of waiting for the person to
because we are born as free beings. Yeah. We were given that gift of consciousness, and in that consciousness we have the freedom to say yes to learning or to saying no to learning. Animals are driven by instinct. They don't have many choices. But as human beings, with our free consciousness, it's up to us to do the work to become one with our higher self, which is our other polarity, if you want. So God doesn't interfere. God is like totally happy in himself. He established the two principles, feminine, masculine. After that, he put on the laws, and then he put all the manifestations out there. And it's for us to navigate through. Do I know the laws? Why did I end up into such a pickle? Which law I didn't respect? And then go back then to the next level. And so that you can see clearly through the situation. It's complex, I realize, but it's our inner work to go within and look and ask questions. Our higher self is always there to answer questions. Time is running, and I would like to end with one last paragraph and one prayer for us to say together. When we talk about the masculine and the feminine principle, it's not something new that came with Omra Mikhaila Ivanov. Abraham received from Moses the bread and the wine as the symbol of those two principles. And when Jesus performed his first miracle at the wedding of Cana, there was a wedding, the feminine and the masculine, a man and a woman getting married. And then at the Last Supper, he performed the Eucharist, or the communion, with the bread and the wine, which symbolized the feminine and the masculine. This is how precious. Who manifested first on earth through Abraham and through Jesus the truth of the two principles?
Melchizedek.
Very good. It was Melchizedek, priest of the Most High. It's even said, St. Paul said, Jesus was of the school of Melchizedek. Jesus was an initiate. He was very advanced. He sacrificed his life to change something, and he sure did. But not to the point of bringing the golden age. So, if you want to join me into this beautiful prayer to Melchizedek, because within Melchizedek we have the revelations of the two principles. O Melchizedek, King of justice and peace, be blessed, be blessed, be blessed, and be thanked. Enter into me, dwell within me, in all your light, in all your splendor, in all your love, in all your wisdom, and in all your beauty. O Melchizedek, King of justice and peace, be blessed, be blessed, be blessed, and be thanked. Enter into me, dwell within me, in all your light, in all your splendor, in all your love, in all your wisdom, and in all your beauty. O Melchizedek, King of justice and peace, be blessed, be blessed, be blessed, and be thanked. Enter into me, dwell within me, in all your light, in all your splendor, in all your love, in all your wisdom, and in all your beauty. Thank you. If you want to know more, cosmic balance, you will not be disappointed. True, Lakshmi? And from here, I took some reference from here. And in Love and Sexuality, that's where the Master talks about soulmates and twin souls. Thank you.
That was so revealing, Carmen. Thank you. Thank you for such an expose on the mysteries of creation and how it relates to each and every one of us and the entire cosmos. We now have tools to know ourselves better and to use in our daily lives to create harmonious relationships. Several of the elements mentioned reminded me of the very first episode presented in the series Towards a Solar Civilization on the signs of the initiates, or as Omra Mikhail Ivanov likes to refer to as initiatic science. I encourage you to go and revisit that episode and see how well it fits with the present episode. We would like to invite you to stay tuned to upcoming episodes. Here is a preview of what is still to come. In episode 8, we will explore the arts, specifically music and theater. In episode 9, we'll look into sacred geometry. In episode 10, the 4 sacred sciences of the initiates. Episode 11 will feature a talk on mystical Christmas. And finally, at the end of our second series, in episode 12, Anatole will interview 7 brothers and sisters from all over the world and see how they experience the teachings in everyday life. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.